How many of you listen to music on your car ride here today? Pretty much everyone, nice. Now, how many of you chose a specific song, album, playlist, or even radio station? Nice, pretty much everybody again. Why do I ask this? Well, as I made my way here today, I got in my car and blared my pump up playlist. Whenever I go for a drive, whether it's across the street or quite a trek, I always make sure to plug in my phone, open up my music, and find a playlist that matches my mood. For as long as I can remember, music has had some sort of influence in my life. Some of my earliest memories involve music and the emotions that came along with it. I remember when I was just a toddler, I could never get to bed by my bedtime. Maybe it was too much residual energy, the fear of the dark, despite my constant nagging that the hall light be left turned on, or maybe even just the fear of not being able to fall asleep. But the one thing that would finally lull me to sleep was music. In comes my trusty CD player, with a bright silver color and sound that illuminated the room when the lights were off. Now, in my CD collection, there were the cringeworthy Kids Bop, the first 15 plus the Christmas edition to be exact. But there was also songs like Madonna's Hung Up and the Backstreet Boys' Larger Than Life. It was my first exposure to mainstream culture. I was inspired to seize the day by never living a dull moment, to be larger than life myself. With this daily lullaby, I learned about the many mistakes that adults make, with some going right over my head. And now that I think about it, maybe Madonna wasn't the best thing for a 7-year-old to listen to. But these songs stuck, and even though my fear of the dark disappeared, the influence music played on my life continued. Fast forward to middle school, a tumultuous time for everyone. I, however, was determined to beat the odds and enjoy my middle school years. I had proven myself to be an avid student in elementary school, and I was on the honors track. My elementary school friends continued with me to middle school, and life seemed pretty good. Around this time, I was introduced to an artist by the name of Ellie Goulding. She was not very big at the time, only having released one album, but this Pandora suggestion intrigued me. Her song Lights became my anthem, and it reminded me of the time when I was afraid of the dark and the emotions that it brought with it. She sung, "You show the lights that stop me, turn to stone. You shine them when I'm alone. And so I'll tell myself that I'll be strong and dreaming when they're gone." These lines were catchy and were associated with me finally being able to fall asleep. But life sure has a funny way of sneaking up on you, and it sure scared me in 7th grade. 7th grade was the year that I became self-aware, that I started looking inside myself at who I was and what I stood for, rather than letting the outside simply influence me. Growing up, I typically didn't have a care in the world, as I was usually sheltered by the many conflicts of real life. But that bubble was shattered when I realized that I was gay. Confusion swelled in my mind. I was in the middle of confirmation at my church, whose teachings I emphatically followed, and I still enjoy many of its principles today. But this seemed so wrong, such an outlier in what I felt like was an otherwise fantastic life. The groove that I'd been following for such a long time suddenly had a very sour note. So even though I knew my sexuality deep down, it became an embarrassing secret. At this point, I had continued my tradition of listening to music when I would fall asleep, and many nights were defined by Kelly Clarkson's Dark Side. I asked God with her lyrics, "Everybody's got a dark side. Do you love me? Can you love mine?" Life was not over though, despite what many adolescents like myself at the time would like us to believe. My Ellie Goulding fangirling had increasingly been viewed as an obsession, but with her new album, Halcyon, I learned that it's gonna be better, as I worked towards a brighter future that might somehow have a better ring to it. I had accepted my sexuality, but I wasn't quite ready to share it with others yet. I navigated through life, not quite sure who I was or who I wanted to be. I pretended to have the typical teen crushes and tried to fit in rather than stand out. But I felt like the song Cool Kids was written for me with the words, "Yeah, they're living the good life. Can't see what he is going through. I wish that I could be like the cool kids." But that doesn't quite work. I felt that there had to be more to life than just wading through it, trying to avoid the unpleasant situations or experiences that I was put in. That's when I stumbled across Betty Who, whose song just like me made me realize something. She sang, "So if you think you're falling apart, if you've got a broken heart, then you're just like me." Suddenly, I realized that the problems and emotions that I'd been swallowing in order to function in daily life could not be continued to be held down. And they don't need to be, because we all have challenges presented to us. These challenges may seem unique. They may make you feel isolated, and they may make you feel like the one person out of 7.5 billion people on the face of the earth with that challenge. But one of the most defining qualities of being human, I've come to realize, is that we can all share experiences and empathize with one another. Quickly, things start to click into place. The reason why music carries such power is not because of its market value or its popularity, but because of how it can bring people together, whether from across the room to across the world. Many of the songs that I mentioned tonight, if you look at the artist's inspiration behind them, have absolutely nothing to do with the problems that I had at the times they held the most value to me. But that's what's so critical. How many of you can think of at least one song that holds a special meaning to you? And that's pretty much everybody. For me, music started by comforting me with words that I most likely didn't even understand and connecting me to the outside world. But then those words gained meaning. And most importantly, they gained meaning to me, just like they do for each and every one of you here today. Now, as I look forward to the next chapter of my life in college, I'm extremely thankful for this realization. It has led me to challenge myself in ways that I never would have dreamed of in the past. In high school, I joined student government, and I even started acting last year. Now, whenever I feel sad, lost, frustrated, or stuck, I play the song Paperlight by Lorraine in my head, where she declares, "We are born to be higher." Higher than gender orientation, higher than the stereotypes that permeate our society, and higher than the little problems that we often concern ourselves so much with. The soundtrack of my life plays a much sweeter tune now, and of course it contains many of my favorites, including Ellie. And so, I would like to ask for you all that you listen to your soundtrack and see, is it the sound that you want to hear? If so, share in it with others and enjoy it. If not, remember that you are not alone, and that there's always another track coming up next. And who knows, maybe your soundtrack will be larger than life. We are all connected by music. Thank you.